Welcome to the Brave Women at Work podcast. This is your host, Jen Pasticas. I'm so glad you're here. With the Brave Women at Work podcast, you'll get the resources and tips along with real-world stories and humor to empower and inspire you to take bolder and braver actions in your career and life. Well, hello, Jennifer. Welcome to Brave Women at Work. How are you today?
I am well. How are you?
I am good. You're bringing the energy from Connecticut, so thanks so much.
You are so welcome. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, I likewise. I'm so excited to have this conversation. So, I love to hear women's, all people, everybody. I'm a curious person by nature. So tell me a little bit about you and your background story. I've already started diving into your book. I'm an Audible fan, so I'm about 2/3 through, and I'm loving every second as I'm on my walks.
Good.
I am. But tell us a little bit about you and your background story.
Sure. So my background is actually in behavioral change. So I have an undergraduate and graduate degree focused on behavioral change. And for the last about 10, 12 years, probably 12 or more, anyway, I've lost count. I worked as a global leadership consultant, and I was able to work with leaders, aspiring leaders, all the way up to the C-suite of organizations. And was an instructional designer. I designed, created, developed, and facilitated leadership and learning programs, experiential learning programs for leaders all over the world. And I was so fortunate and so blessed to be able to do that and to really see how we learn best and the power of learning. And I've spent probably about 3 decades working with people in some capacity to help them create positive and sustainable change in their lives. And that time spent as a global leadership consultant really helped me want to see if I could bring what I was doing with corporations and organizations into the hands of everyday people that perhaps don't have access to that.
Mm-hmm.
So that I could give people accessible, actionable opportunities to create personal development in their own lives if they don't have access to it through work. And I've been wanting to actually write a book for a long time. It probably started, I want to say 15 years ago or so. And so it's been in the works for a long time. And I believe that everything that I've done in my life has really led me to this point and led me to where I am now.
So, one thing that I found so heartwarming is your vulnerability. So, I did listen to your TEDx talk. It was at Valparaiso University. I'm obviously listening to your book, and you have, and I like, we are definitely connected in this. Like, I have no problem telling everyone like how I've messed up. Like, I have like, I'm like, yeah, I screwed up here, burned out there, and you are similar. And so, do you mind, like, so, people like when they listen to us, they're like, oh yeah, you guys have it all figured out and you're so polished and perfect. So can we share like maybe a couple screw up stories? Like you tell me a couple of yours, I'll tell you a couple
Absolutely.
of mine. Okay.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, let me just tell you that that is not easy for me. It
Okay.
was one of the hardest things I've ever done because I'm a hugely private person. So for
Oh,
me to be willing to do that, it was because I knew the importance of connecting with the learner, connecting with the reader, that I needed to demonstrate to them that one, I'd lived this myself.
okay.
And two,
Well,
that I
thank you.
wanted to be able to really relate to people and have people relate to me. And
Mm,
so now that I've started doing it, I've certainly got a lot better at it. It's becoming easier, but it is not something easy for me to do. It would not have been something, if you asked me 5, 10 years ago to do this, I probably wouldn't have been as forthcoming.
okay. Well, good. And thank you. I did not know that. So there's one right there. Thanks
Yeah,
for your vulnerability. And
yeah.
you would have been like, Jen, podcast over.
We're done. Like, thanks.
We're
Thanks.
done.
Bye. I got some parting gifts for you. Thanks for
Okay, all right.
playing.
So how about if I start where you warm up? Okay, so everybody knows that I've burnt out really good. I did like the gold star chasing. People know on the podcast about that in the community. I also was told that I wasn't management or leadership material. I've had terrible imposter syndrome on and off throughout my life, and I've had to learn how to manage it. I did not get into my MBA school of choice, and was like devastated and had martyr syndrome for about 6 months after that. So there's some. Okay, so
No,
back to you.
absolutely. No. So I was divorced at a very young age. I was actually, I think getting divorced, the process of getting divorced took longer than I was actually married that first time.
Mm,
It was a very traumatic experience for me and a very difficult, I felt like I failed. And for me, failure was never something that was, I don't think it's anything people aspire to, but it's certainly not something I was used to.
mm-hmm.
And I felt like I'd failed myself and my family and my faith and, all of the above. I also know what it feels like to come home from work to an eviction notice on the front door, which is one of the most horrific things I've dealt with, and not knowing why. not knowing why that was there. That's another
Uh-oh.
story for another day.
Okay.
And so that's one of, I think, my favorite stories about kind of vulnerability. And I use this story in the book as well, but as I was a facilitator as a global leadership consultant, we were doing a workshop to help us become better as facilitators.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the room with several of my colleagues whom I incredibly admired. They're phenomenal facilitators. And I had three people come up and share with me the exact same feedback. And what they said to me was, you need to be more vulnerable in the front of the room. And I was thinking to myself, okay, see,
Mm.
I call myself a recovering perfectionist
Me
now,
too. That's
right?
why I wanted to talk
Yes.
about it. Okay.
I'm a recovering perfectionist because in my mind, in my perfectionism mind, I had this persona, if you will, I needed
Mm-hmm.
to display, right? I'm in the front of the room. I need to be seen as the expert. I need to be seen as, worthy, if you will, to be up here, that I'd earned the right to be up there. And for me, vulnerability didn't quite fit. But I understood what they were saying and I took it to heart because I knew they were really, truly trying to help me. And I challenged myself the very next day to deliver and share a story that I'd never shared out loud before, which was when my older sister passed away. I chose to do her eulogy because no one was going to do it.
Oh.
And
Mm.
I remember practicing and practicing and practicing, and I was perfect in my practice. Perfect. And for me, in my mind, I also wanted to be perfect for my sister because I was honoring my sister. And I got up there and literally couldn't talk. Like my
Oh.
emotions just overwhelmed me. And my mom said, I remember my mom saying to me, she goes, if you were up there for just like a few minutes longer, I was going to take you down off the stage
Like the little
and
hook.
just
The
like
hook was
get the
coming.
hook out and go, no, no, you're done. It's okay. We understand, but you're
Oh,
done.
that's awesome.
But I got through it. And I
Okay.
remember looking back later, on that's a different story. But when I shared that story in the front of the room, I saw how many people had literally tears in their eyes. And I realized that in that moment, that vulnerability, that willingness to show a bit more of who I am as a human being, I connected with everybody in that room on a completely different level. And that showed me the power of when we open up as humans to another human and how we bond and how we become closer together and can do so much more together because of it.
That is so good. Thank you for starting in a vulnerable place. I promise this won't be painful the rest of
It's
the time.
okay. I've gotten so good at it now. I'm
Okay.
like I'm on a roll now. I get
You're
so
on
much
a
better at
roll.
this.
Okay, so I am a fellow recovering perfectionist.
Yeah.
I want to ask you how yours showed up. So here's how mine showed
Yep.
up. So mine was I had terrible anxiety during school. I had to get straight A's.
So exactly the same. I had
Yeah.
severe test anxiety so
Hmm.
mine started all the way back when I was in, okay, I don't know if they still do this in school because I don't have kids in school. So, but multiplication test, okay? Timed
Hmm.
multiplication test.
Oh, okay.
I was in, I don't know what, second grade or something ridiculous. I don't know what it was. Anyway, really young. And I had studied and I was ready for the test. And I went in to take the exam and I blanked out. I couldn't even write my name on the paper. From that day forward, I had severe test anxiety that I would literally get ill the night before a test, physically ill the night before a test. I would memorize everything, like literally could tell you what page and what page number information was on because I was so panicked about not being able. I didn't want to do that again. I didn't want to blank out again. So it was, yeah, it plagued me for the longest time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, me too. And when I was a kid, I got like really bad stomach pains. Like I would make myself sick. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think we grew up in a similar time. So like our parents, like our moms, like parents, they didn't know what to do. Like we just like sucked it up and we just like were really good students and we're like, oh, thank
Right.
God.
Well, I mean, my parents knew that we were bright children. And so there was an expectation that we were supposed to do our best. They never said you have to get straight A's. So that was never but our expectation was to do our best. And so there was that element, little bit of pressure as well, and then my own that I put on myself.
Yeah, yeah. Perfectionist, like we had a little like cherry on top of all the extra pressure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. And there's so many women listening that are fellow perfectionists. So I just wanted to say that, like, Jennifer and I, the Jens, right? Like, or Jennifer and I, we see you, like, we see you,
Oh,
we hear you,
completely.
like, we are with you, right? You're not alone.
And
So
you
go
don't
ahead.
have to let it take over your life. There's a way
Totally.
to now manage. So it still shows up. It's not something that's gone. It still shows up. I just know how to manage it better now. And so I can kind of say, yep, I can see that you're here again. And thank you very much for showing up. I don't really need your help today. I think I've got this. I've got this covered. And I focus now so much more on learning, on
Yes.
progress, and letting go of the perfection. Because honestly, for those of us who are perfectionists out there, when we do work that is good, it's probably much better than most other people's. Now, I'm not saying to rest on your laurels. We still want to do exceptional work, but you can do exceptional work without having to be encumbered by this notion of having it have to be perfect.
Exactly. Yeah, I tell my clients often who are other perfectionists that your 80% is probably someone's like 120%.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's okay. Like my husband calls it, he tells me sometimes, he goes, Jen Island time. Like when perfection
Right.
shows up, he's like, get a drink, put
Yeah.
an umbrella in it because your 80 downshift is just fine. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Exactly. Like take a breath, take a moment. It's
I
going
know.
to be okay.
I know. Okay, so I love your whole concept. So we've been, chit-chatting about your book. So the book title, and we're gonna add it in the show notes. You got to listen, you got to read it. Claim your swagger, stop surviving, and start thriving. I love it. And I like the idea of swagger because I tell
Yeah.
people, like when we talk about executive presence and things like that, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
you gotta have a certain something. You gotta have a secret
Yep.
sauce. You gotta have
Mhm.
swagger. And then when I saw your theme, I'm like, oh yeah. So,
Yeah.
what does swagger mean to you?
So there's a couple things that I say because obviously and I know you looked it up already, but in the dictionary, it doesn't have a very favorable definition of
No,
swagger,
it
quite frankly.
doesn't. I
Okay.
looked it up for this. Yeah.
Exactly. So the way that I like to describe it is a more visual way because I think we've all seen and or felt this before. Have you ever been in a restaurant or something and somebody walked in and they like literally lit up the room? Like almost everybody's attention was drawn to them and they weren't necessarily the most beautiful person or well dressed or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. There was just something about them that drew you to them. They had this kind of quiet self-confidence and self-assuredness. They were comfortable in their own skin and unapologetically so. They knew exactly who they were. And if the waiter was passing by, you would be tapping the waiter on the shoulder going, excuse me, can I have whatever they're having, please? Because I really want some of that. And that's what I mean by swagger. It's when you embody and really embrace who you are and are authentically who you were meant to be and wholeheartedly embrace and unapologetically kind of step into that. That is swagger. And that is something that can't be bought, It has to be earned and it has to be practiced on a regular basis. But when you have it, it is incredibly powerful.
Okay, so I'm just going to read the dictionary, like paraphrase. So it says to walk in a very confident, aggressive, and arrogant way, which I bristled when I read. I'm like, ugh, that's like
Exactly.
icky. That's
It,
icky.
I think, maybe I will
Maybe.
send in a new definition for them.
Please do. Please do. Because I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so you said something that was curious to me. You have to earn it. You've got to practice it.
Mhm.
There might be women listening that are like, okay, well, how do I earn it? Is there anything that you would say to start? And I know we have a whole acronym we're going to go into, which I love the good acronym, and this is a great one. So anything you want to share before we dive into the acronym of how they earn it?
Well, those are the steps that I usually encourage people to
Okay.
start doing. It's how you
Okay.
claim it. And the reason I think I mean, you're not wrong. So many people will say, well, okay, that's great, but how do I do it? And that's why I wanted to create this, because I wanted to give people a step-by-step approach to say, oh, you know what? I can do that. I
I
can
can do it.
start. Yeah, I can work on those things. I can claim my own swagger.
Yeah, so let's go through. So, like, if you can kind of define the
Yeah,
acronym for
absolutely.
swagger, let's go.
So, and the reason I have acronyms actually is because of my test anxiety. That was one of my coping mechanisms, was
Oh,
creating acronyms, and I still use them today. So they've just become this kind of part of me. I've used
I
acronyms for
love
so
it.
long. So the
Okay.
swagger, the SW stands for self-worth.
Okay.
The A is appreciation for your strengths and limitations. The first G is gratitude for how your life experiences have helped shape who you are. The second G is grounded in your core values. The E is empowered to overcome self-limiting beliefs. And the R is renewed through a greater focus on your passion and purpose. And it's not just something you'll read or listen to. This is why you also might need to get the ebook or the actual hard copy, because in the audiobook, I couldn't do the
Mm.
activities. So there's activities and daily reinforcements that are actually in the book to help you do the work.
Okay. All right. So I can't skip out. Okay. So I will listen to it first, and then it sounds like I've got to go back and do the
Yes.
hardcover and like do
Yeah,
the highlighting and do the exercises and all that good stuff.
exactly.
Okay. All right. So
Exactly.
that's good. So everybody, if you're a listener, get the Audible, but you can't skip out on like is it hardcover and paperback or just
It's
hardcover?
paperback.
Oh,
It's
paperback.
paperback.
Okay,
Yeah.
paperback. Okay,
Mhm.
sounds great. Okay, so one of the things that women might be interested in go, okay, well, how do I know where I am? Like if there's a swagger o meter, right? Like where am I on
Yeah.
swagger? Like how do I find out where I'm at?
Well, I created actually a quiz for people, and it's on
Okay.
my website at Swagger U. That's the letter U because it's short for Swagger University. So
Okay.
swaggeru.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a quiz there with questions that are designed to see how you feel about yourself and your life right now. And they will tell you where your swagger is. Based on how you respond, you will get one of three results. Your
Mm-hmm.
swagger is either alive and well, treading water, or on life support. And
Uh-oh.
it doesn't matter what it is. And the reason I say it doesn't matter is
Hmm.
because in order to get to where you want to go, you first have to know your starting point. So, regardless of what score you get, don't be discouraged because you've already taken the very first step by checking, by seeing, by identifying and assessing where you are right now. And that is what is super critical information to help you get to where you want to go.
Okay, so again, all the links will be in the show notes, so go check that out so you can see the website, see where you are in the swagger, o meter right now, and then you can get the resources. So one of the things I was thinking about as I've been listening to the book on my walks is swagger nature or nurture, right? So the
Mm.
question is, are we all born like out of the womb, like the babies are like, ta-da, I have swagger, right? Or do some people have like more of a shake of swagger or or no, like it's got to be developed. So any thoughts on that?
I have a couple actually, because I do think that we're born with all the elements of swagger.
Okay.
But if you look at all the different pieces of the acronym, not everybody, for example, knows what their purpose is. They haven't truly
It's
articulated
true.
it, right?
Hmm.
So until you do that, you're not really going to bring that to life. A lot of times we have, for example, core values. They're kind of, we know what's important to us, but until we literally articulate them and start to live them, then they don't mean anything in our lives. We are born, for example, with worth. Our worth is innate. That means we are born worthy. It's not because of who we are, what we do, or what work or what role we play, or because someone else has validated us. Our worth is innate. But what we need to do is create that new relationship with our self-worth so that we can truly embody that. So there are elements that I think we are born with, the building blocks, but to
Hmm.
truly embrace and embody that swagger, you do have to develop it. You have to claim it.
Okay, yes, and that's the title of the book. So I have a
Exactly.
lot of thought. I have a lot of thoughts right now. So first, an idea for you. You probably already have this on the plan. I think there should be a swagger for teens. I really
Mm-hmm.
do. Because, all of us listening, I'm not saying that everybody's my age or whatever, but a lot of women listening are might be in their mid 30s or 40s or 50s or beyond, right? And it's like, dang, like how come we have to like go back, like get to this
Why
level
did we
to
have to
like
wait
claim
this
it?
long to do this?
I know. I mean, like, okay, better late than never, right, Jennifer?
Right.
But
Of
like,
course. Of
why
course.
couldn't we have this when we were like 20?
I
Can you
know.
imagine how rad
Well,
life would have been?
well, and exactly. And can you imagine how much better equipped, especially young women would be in today's day and age with social media and all this other stuff that we have going on in our lives? If they had a stronger sense of self, if they had that swagger as a foundation for their life, I mean, it would be so much better. And we
It
would be
would
setting
be.
them, these future leaders, up for success going forward.
Yeah, and girls and boys, right? I mean,
Yeah, oh,
we're
of
we're
course.
pro,
Yes,
like brave women at work, right? So we're focused on females, but I think that the boys could, do this, and benefit from this as much. I mean, it's not just
completely
a
agree.
female thing. Exactly. So, okay, so everybody, like I gotta, calm it down, but I'm like thinking as I'm, energized right now, I'm like, dang,
It's definitely been in my thoughts for sure. And it is an area that I plan to
it's like over
expand
there.
into. Hmm.
Okay. Because I'm like, okay, maybe I use this book and I like, the moms in the neighborhood, everybody, you know who you are. Like, let's do a book study on like getting our kids like all the swagger because I think it's a real good gift, a big gift to give to your children. So you mentioned, I think it might have been in the TEDx, but talking about losing, your swagger, like
Mm, mm,
those self-proclaimed maybe mistakes or
yes,
hardships in your early life. You said you're about 24.
right.
I think that kind of like knocked you down several pegs and you were losing your swagger. How would you say? I mean, is it life just like kicks the, shit out of us basically, and like that's how we lose our swagger? Or I mean, it does sometimes you can see it. It's like light dims in people. And I was just wondering if you might comment on how we lose it.
I think sometimes it's when we lose pieces of ourselves or how we've seen ourselves. So I see it. I mean, obviously, I experienced it because my whole life took a nosedive, and I think some of us have to hit our own little rock bottom to kind of
Mm-hmm.
then question, is this what I want my life to be, or do I want it to be something different? I also find that other people, it's a gradual thing that happens. And I see this actually a lot with moms. And the reason I say it's with moms is because they give so much of themselves to their kids that they lose a lot of who they are often.
Mm.
And they kind of lose sight of who they were before they had kids. And then there comes a point in time too where they go, well, who do I want to be? Like, who am I? But more importantly, who do I really want to be going forward? So I think it can be a combination of things, whether it's a life event or a combination of events that happen that then bring us to a place where we start to question, or it's a gradual thing where over time we just kind of feel like we've lost bits of ourselves along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to tell people, if anybody's feeling like that right now, first of all, you're not alone. There are so many of us out there that have gone through that. And two, you can decide for it to be different. You
Mm-hmm.
can make a choice. Your life is not out. The pilot light is still there. You just
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out how to turn it back up, and you have to make the choice and decide that you want to, and that you want your life to go in a different direction. But you have everything you need to be able to do it. Your best days are not behind you, they're ahead
Mm.
of you.
I got like the goosebumps. Like that is so good, right? It's about the decision. It's about,
Yes,
you're one decision away from changing your life, right? Which
that's right.
now I sound like an infomercial, but I mean, it's absolutely true.
Well, I mean, Jen, what's great about that is, I mean, one of the most powerful things that psychological research has come out with in the past couple decades is this notion that we can choose the way we think.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose the way we think. And when you wrap your head around that, you can go, well, wait a minute. I have so much more power than I ever thought I had before. And when you step into that, then it literally is limitless because you can make decisions for yourself. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to just be reactive or just survive or just kind of go through life like, oh, here we go again, same old thing, same old day, nothing's changed. You get to make choices. And that
Mm-hmm.
is just incredibly powerful.
It is. It absolutely is. So one thing that you talked about was the idea that we are inherently worthy when we're
Mm,
born.
mm.
And I don't know about you, but I don't know a lot of women that are feeling that, where they're like, I am inherently worthy.
No, it's a
Therefore,
mindset shift for sure. It was actually even eye-opening for me when I was doing the research for that chapter and coming across some of this. It was because think about when we are young, we've been conditioned over time to kind of connect who we are and our worth to what we
yes.
have and what we do. So our role in life has usually dictated a lot of our worth in our own minds and in the minds of society. And when you take that away or when that changes, then you lose a sense of that worth or a sense of self. And so one of the things I encourage people to do to start developing that new relationship with your self-worth is to disconnect who you are and your worth from what you do. We are so much more than what we do. And so, yes, it does take time to embrace this mindset of we were born worthy. But if you look up the definition of self-worth in the dictionary, it does
Mm-hmm.
say innate. That means we're born with it. That means it comes with us when we take our first breath. It is there. And that also means that no one can take it away unless we allow them to. And it also means that no one can provide worth to us. So we have to stop sitting in the courtroom while others act as our judge and jury, deeming us worthy or not. Am I pretty enough, smart enough, successful enough, wealthy enough, whatever the enough is that you want to add to the equation? But stop trying to please others to make yourself worthy. You are already there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I hear this a lot. And I have struggled with this many, many times where I get confused. Like for a minute, it's almost like, you have balance for a minute, like in a yoga pose, and you're like, oh, mom, look at me. I got
And
it.
then all of a sudden you fall, and then like,
I
that
know.
was it.
I got the tree pose. Awesome. Look at me. And
For
then I
like a
fall
second.
over. I know. And then I'm like, oh, darn it. I don't have it anymore. And so you got to, that's kind of how it is. But yes, that's how it is with self-worth and a lot of these. And that's why it's a work in progress.
And that's
I'm a,
why it's a practice. That means
yes.
it's a lifestyle and a practice. This is something that has to be worked on regularly. It's not a check the box exercise. Oh, I did that activity. Now I have self-worth. That's not how it works. I work on my swagger every day, every day.
Oh, wow. And you wrote this book.
And
Okay. So
I
you're
wrote
working.
it. Exactly.
Uh-oh.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's a good thing
Oh, it's
because,
good. Okay.
yes, because that means we're constantly developing it and getting it stronger. And the more that we bring these things into our daily lives, the easier it becomes because it becomes part of our lifestyle instead of something we have to be so focused and intentional about.
So with you writing the book, speaking about this to businesses, groups and coaching and all that stuff. So what are things that you do? I don't know if it's part of a morning practice or how are
Mhm.
you always refining your swagger?
Well, I do have a very specific morning routine, which is something I've been doing now for quite a while, which sets me up for success. So I meditate every morning before I get out of bed, which I never thought. I mean, this is somebody that if somebody said that they knew me way back when, they would go, "There's no way on this earth that you do meditation." I'm like,
Me
"Yeah, well,
too.
it's a
Yeah.
guided meditation, mind you, because
Okay.
it's the only way I can do it." But I do a meditation. I do a morning mobility for my body to get everything back in alignment. I do my own affirmations and gratitude. And this is all part of my getting ready in the morning, getting my morning routine. And I also think I mean, I joke with people and I say people would have like a giggle of a time if they were in my office with me and watching me throughout the day because I literally coach myself throughout the day. And sometimes it's out loud because sometimes I have to
Whatever.
go, "Jennifer, come on, like get over yourself here. Can we just get on with this, please?" So,
10
so
push-ups, go.
exactly, like, come on. So, but
That's so fun.
sometimes it's as little as, pausing and going, "Wait a minute, why am I upset right now?" And then I can link it to, "Oh, okay, I get it." And then I can make a different choice versus just reacting. So there's lots of little things that I do on a daily basis that are all part of, kind of my swagger.
Okay, thank you for doing that. So on the meditation thing, I have to share. I don't think I've shared this publicly yet. So I'm doing a meditation breath work training right
Oh, good for
now.
you.
Yeah, that
Fabulous.
I can bring it into my work with clients because
Yes.
like I was like such a chest breather for the longest time and didn't know how to breathe. And now with meditation, I'm like, wow, if I breathe deeper and through my whole diaphragm, I actually feel a little calmer. And so, yeah,
Yes.
more to come on that. So I'm glad that you're a meditator.
It helps me. So there's times when, and I know you might bring this up later on, when we ruminate on things, right? When we just kind of our mind
Yes.
spins and it moves from this to the next to the next to the, and you just like, I can't focus. And I can now, because of my meditation practice and some of the other things, and the idea that we can choose our thoughts, I can keep redirecting my thoughts. And one of the ways that I've encouraged some of my clients is actually using your breath to
Mm,
refocus your thoughts. So it's as simple as, saying to yourself on the inhale, and on the exhale. But your mind might wander for a minute, but then come back to no, inhale and
yes.
exhale. And you can literally refocus your thoughts. To your point, Jen, you can calm yourself down and you can put yourself in a much more productive place to then
Yes.
respond to whatever it is you're dealing with. So there's lots of ways that you can be working on your swagger and developing all of this on a daily basis.
I completely agree with that. A lot of my clients ruminate a lot about like when they're in a meeting, they're ruminating about what they should say or something they said and it was
Right.
stupid or what.
Right.
And I'm like, all of that, I mean, again, it's easy for me to say it isn't helpful, but it's about breathing into it. It's about saying, you know what, I did the best that I could because by going down that rumination, like it's literally like you are tapping your own power, like you are
Mm-hmm.
literally sapping your own strength.
Exactly.
And you're not even present for the meeting because you're more worried and ruminating than you are actually taking in the information and showing that you're engaged and you're present and you're smart and you're valuable.
I agree. And actually, one of the most powerful things that I think you can do in that situation, let's say you feel like you said something that maybe you thought was stupid. You can literally take the power away from that, from the whole thing, by commenting on it, by saying,
Oh,
"Okay, maybe that was not my most brilliant thought, guys, but here we go.
oh,
Let's talk about this." You literally diffuse the whole thing right then and there. And it also shows one, that you're incredibly self aware, and two, that you're really confident and comfortable in your own skin. And it's vulnerability. And how do we connect with other people? Through
vulnerability.
vulnerability, but
And
in a
it's
way
levity.
that's
Yeah.
not exactly, we're making light of it. We're not making it a big deal. We're just kind of poking fun at ourselves, which is a very normal, natural thing to do, and it'll diffuse the whole thing and take the worry off the table.
Yeah, and it also they say with Brene Brown, right? She says like once you air something, if you give
Yeah,
oxygen to shame, it can't grow. So
that's right.
before you get ashamed, you're like,
That's right.
"Oh, it wasn't
No,
my brightest moment."
I'm not even going to allow that to happen. Hmm.
Exactly. Okay, good stuff, people. Hope you're taking notes there. It's funny. It's funny. Okay, so let's talk, because we're not going to give away all of the good golden nuggets from the book. But one other thing that I wanted to touch on is those other past mistakes, right? So we've talked
Mm,
about things in a meeting, but what about, let's use like mine or yours, whatever you feel comfortable
hmm
with, like, whether it was the divorce, something bigger, right? It's one thing to be down on ourselves about like, oh, I said something stupid in a meeting. It's another to be like, oh, I got divorced.
hmm
I'm bad, or I
Oh,
lost a
completely.
job, or I mean the big stuff, the big rocks. Can we talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that, and I talk a lot about this in the book as well. So when I first got divorced, I thought I was walking around with a scarlet letter on my forehead, a big
Oh
D,
no.
like
Okay.
divorced, damaged, dangerous, like whatever. Pick your acronym or pick your adjective, if you will.
Yeah.
I really thought I was broken and that no one was going to want to be with me, be around me. Like, why would they? I mean, I was a failure. And it wasn't until I met my husband now that he helped me see it from a different perspective. And what I was able to do once I got through the pain and the discomfort of it all and the emotional toil it took on me, I I think I was able to go back and find gratitude for having gone through it because I know that I would not be the same person I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I learned so much more about relationships, about how I can behave in relationships, about what I need in relationships. I do believe that my husband and I today would not have the same relationship had I not been through a divorce.
Hmm.
So I can look back, and this is again where choice comes in. I can look back and go, oh gosh, it's horrible, this thing that happened in my life. And I can be defined by that. Or I can choose to say, gosh darn it. Thank goodness that happened. I do not want to go back and repeat it, mind you. However, what I've learned and how I've grown as a result of it have made me who I am today. And for that, I'm truly grateful. So it's about being able to get through whatever challenging situation you're going through and then take some time to look back and reflect and go, what do I have today or what's different today that would not have actually happened had I not gone through that experience?
Mm-hmm.
And it's when we do that exercise that we can learn to find gratitude even in the bad and the ugly.
Mm-hmm. And I also am thinking, not going into all the details, but I think that's like how family patterns repeat too, or personal patterns repeat, is that you
Right.
don't take enough time. So you're moving so fast through your life, or the
Right.
family is moving so fast, they don't take time to look back and go, oh yeah, let's not do that again, or let's learn from this and not do that, and kind of pick the good with the bad. Still be grateful, but let's like not repeat. But if
Right.
we don't actually take those learnings and spend some time in contemplation, it happens over and over again.
Well, I kind of say that the way that I kind of look at that, Jen, is I say that life is going to continue to provide the lessons for us until we learn them.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I have like in one of my family members right now, and like sending him all the good light and love and prayers, because I see, and it's hard, right? Because you can't go in and do it for that
No,
person. And I'm
no.
watching like the car crash, and I'm like, please don't make that choice, right? Like you're gonna learn again. But it
Yeah.
it, it is what it is.
Well, and I just wrote about this actually in my newsletter this past Friday called Swagger Sense, and I called it Planting Seeds. And all we can do is plant seeds for those people. Plant seeds, and we may or may not be there to see them bear fruit or to blossom and to grow, but we need to keep planting them because the results will never happen if we don't plant the seeds.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah,
that's a gift. Again, we're talking about gifts and gratitude, and that's a gift
right.
to that person you so
That's
care
right.
for, right? To be
That's
like,
right.
hey, I'm planting seeds, but then it's up to you to water that and grow that thing and like make a different decision.
And like you said, Jen, you're sitting there going, please don't make that decision in your life right now or make that choice. But what we have to recognize is not only can we not do it for them, but not everybody is in the right place to receive the information we have to offer at that point in time.
That's
They've
true.
got to get to the right place. And that's why I say we're planting seeds. And when the environment and when the soil is right, when all the conditions are right, that's when it's going to grow. That's when that seed is going to go, it's going to make sense for them because they're ready to receive the information. But don't let that deter you from continuing to plant seeds and seeking out those learning and teaching moments that we have to give to others.
That is great. So I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to repeat the acronym again. I'm going to read it one more time so everyone can hear it as a bookend. And then I want to talk about your future book. So swagger stands for self-worth. So that's the SW. A for appreciation for your strengths and limitations. The first G, gratitude for how your life experiences have helped shaped who you are. G, grounded in those core values, which we talk a lot about here at Brave Women at Work. E, empowered to overcome your self limiting beliefs. And R, for renewed through a greater focus on your passion and purpose. So that is good. So I wanted to make sure you all heard that again. So one little factoid I found, like on your site, I was like, oh, I love this book. But then I was like, what? It's one of
Yes.
three books.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on? What's cooking in the kitchen over there?
So, so here's the thing that well, two things that you might find a little bit funny. So one thing is I purposely wrote that and put that out to the world to make sure that I write the other two because it's out there in the world. So I have to now.
Oh, okay.
And two, I had so much that I wanted to put that I couldn't possibly put it into one book. And so the second book, I'm toying with exactly where I want it to go, but I have lots of ideas on the direction. But it's going to be around really developing that swagger. And
Okay.
then the third book will be a lot more about living with swagger.
Okay.
So those are the initial underpinnings of what is planned at this point. My objective at this point is to get this one really out in the world and have people doing the work before I add too much more. But I will say this is something very exciting. I'm getting ready to start my very first learning journey that coincides with the book, and it's called the Emerge Journey, where I'm
Mm,
helping people emerge into becoming the leader of their lives. And that I'm encouraging people to sign up for the priority wait list right now. And then I'll be starting that 3-month long journey in December. So it'll be
okay.
every 2 weeks. So 2 times a month, we'll do a live workshop, a live virtual workshop. 2 times a month, we do live coaching, group coaching. Every person has to have an accountability partner within the program, and they'll keep each other accountable and have certain things that they do together that then they turn in to keep people moving along and progressing. And as part of it, people can then become what I'm calling, they get to become part of the Swagger Sisterhood. So it's where
Mm,
we support, challenge, encourage, and mentor one another. And people who've gone through the program then can apply to become mentors for future women coming up and through the program.
oh, I love it. Okay, so we're gonna have so many links, so everybody make sure you look at those notes at the end. Okay. So more to come on the books. I'm not even gonna ask like the years. We'll just you keep in touch and then
I
we'll
will
see.
absolutely keep in
Yeah, I'll be
touch.
like, okay, what year are we? Okay, like it's coming out, and then we can have you back on. Okay, so what do you believe? We've talked a lot about this, but I love this question. So, what are 1 to 2 ways that you believe women can be braver at work today?
I think one of the biggest things is to be who you
Mm-hmm.
are. That's where your power lies, is being truly your authentic self.
Mm.
So that's one way. And then I think the other way is recognizing that you have so much to offer and give, and don't ever discount that. No matter what anybody says, You are there for a reason. So offer what you have and provide the knowledge, the insight, the wisdom, the experience that you have to offer.
Okay. Yes. I love that. I actually need to go back to all these podcasts and catalog all this wisdom and like maybe a little, maybe like cards, right? So people can
Yeah.
kind of like, wouldn't that be fun? Who has time? But maybe eventually that'll be one of my projects.
Or little
Okay.
affirmations, right? They
Little
could become affirmations.
affirmations, like the brave affirmations. Okay, everybody,
Mm-hmm.
you've heard it here. Maybe you're going to have to hold me accountable. I don't know when. We'll see about it. Okay. So, how can women connect with you and the Swagger method and your
Yeah.
work online?
So the easiest way to get a hold of me, I think, is at swaggeru. That's the letter u.com. So swaggeru.com. You can take the Swagger quiz. You can hit the contact. There's a contact tab at the top. You can reach out to me directly. You can also find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, the social media places, and reach out to me directly there. So those are probably the best ways, I think, to connect.
Okay, well, great. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. I love your energy. I love the idea of Swagger, and I'm still excited. I'm going through the book and we'll keep in touch, and maybe we'll have like an off recorded rap session on my learnings.
I love it.